What if I told you, self-discipline isn't about grinding harder, it's about thinking deeper. Imagine becoming unshakable not because life is easy, but because your mind is trained to face anything. In a world filled with noise, temptation, and distraction, self-discipline has become a lost art. But over 1,800 years ago, a Roman emperor named Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself each night reminders on how to stay calm, focused, and unbreakable in the face of chaos. He wasn't born with this discipline. He trained it, the same way we train our bodies. Through philosophy. Through daily practice. Through Stoicism. Today, we're diving into 10 Stoic principles that don't just sound wise, they're practical tools to help you regain control, build inner strength, and live with intention. If you've ever struggled to stay consistent, resist distractions, or find purpose, you're not alone. But you're about to learn what helped one of the most powerful men in history stay grounded, and how you can apply it to your life. Start with purpose. I remember a morning, not too long ago. I sat at the edge of my bed, the sun barely rising, my coffee growing cold beside me. The house was quiet. But inside, I felt a storm. I had this strange heaviness in my chest, not from sadness, not from fear, just emptiness. Like I was doing everything, but none of it meant anything. Checking emails. Running errands. Talking to people. But deep down, I was asking myself a silent question: why am I even doing all this? If you're over 40 like me, maybe you felt it too. Life gets busy. Responsibilities pile up. But somewhere along the way, we stop asking ourselves, what truly matters to me? That's when I turned to the writings of Marcus Aurelius. He wasn't just a Roman emperor, he was a man fighting daily battles, not with swords, but with his own mind. One of his most powerful reminders was this: at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I must go to work as a human being. It hit me. Discipline isn't just about getting things done. It's about knowing why you're doing them in the first place. I realized I had let the noise of the world drown out my inner voice. I was chasing goals I never chose. Living a life that looked full, but felt empty. So I asked myself, what am I really here to do? It wasn't an easy answer. It didn't come in a flash of lightning. It came slowly, through quiet reflection. Through walks without my phone. Through writing in a cheap notebook every night, asking the same question over and over: what truly matters? Over time, my purpose became clearer, not perfect, but clearer. For me, it was to live simply. To help others through my words. To be fully present with the people I love. And once I knew that, everything changed. I no longer needed to push myself every morning. Because my purpose pulled me. You see, when your actions are aligned with your purpose, self-discipline isn't forced. It becomes natural. Like water flowing downhill. It doesn't mean life gets easier. But it becomes more meaningful. Even the hard days feel worth it. So if you're feeling stuck or lost, don't reach for another productivity hack. Don't beat yourself up for not being motivated. Start by asking yourself, what is my purpose right now, in this season of my life? It might be caring for your family. It might be healing from something painful. It might be building something small, but important. Whatever it is, write it down. Keep it close. Read it each morning. Let it guide your choices. In the previous lesson, we talked about the power of small daily steps. But steps without direction will only lead you in circles. Purpose is the compass. And when you begin with that compass in your hand, something shifts. You stop rushing. You start living. Now, with that purpose in your heart, let's explore the next lesson: how to count on yourself, even when the world lets you down. Because once you know where you're going, you must also trust that you're strong enough to walk the path. Count on yourself. There was a time in my life when I relied on everyone except myself. I thought, if I just find the right mentor, the right partner, the right plan, maybe then I'll finally have it together. I waited. I hoped. But life, it doesn't always send rescuers. Sometimes, it sends silence. And in that silence, you hear a truth that's hard to swallow: no one is coming. One night, after a long day of disappointments, I sat alone with a glass of water. Not whiskey. Just water. And I whispered to myself, if it's going to change, it has to start with me. That was the moment I stopped outsourcing my strength. And I started learning what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It's not that we don't need others. We do. We need love. We need community. But when it comes to your discipline, your choices, your growth, no one can walk that road for you. I used to blame my childhood, blame my job, blame the people who hurt me. And maybe some of that was fair. But Stoicism taught me something radical: blame gives you nothing. But responsibility gives you power. When I started counting on myself, I didn't become perfect. But I became reliable. I kept small promises, like waking up when I said I would, finishing what I started, not needing applause to feel proud of my efforts. That's when something inside shifted. I didn't feel like a leaf in the wind anymore. I felt like a tree. Rooted. Steady. Quietly growing. You don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need to be flawless to be dependable. Start small. Pick one habit. One promise. And keep it no matter what. Not because someone's watching, but because you are. This, my friend, is what Stoicism means when it says, count on yourself. It's not arrogance. It's not pride. It's dignity. The kind that says, even if no one claps, I will still rise. You already have what you need inside you. The courage. The reason. The will. It's been there all along, just waiting for you to stop searching outward and start listening inward. And when you start walking that path, day by day, you'll notice something powerful: you begin to trust yourself again. You become the kind of person others can rely on. Because first, you chose to rely on yourself. And once you know you can count on yourself, you're ready for the next lesson: showing up every day. Not perfectly. Not loudly. Just consistently. Because real strength isn't proven in grand moments. It's built in the quiet habit of showing up, again and again. Show up every day. There are days I don't feel like doing anything. The body is tired. The mind is cloudy. And the world feels heavy. You know the days I mean. When even the smallest task feels like a mountain. When you ask yourself, does any of this even matter? I've had mornings like that. Plenty. But there's something I've learned, slowly, quietly. Not from motivation, not from inspiration, but from Stoicism. Just show up. Not for the applause. Not because you feel like it. But because your life depends on it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, don't waste the rest of your life speculating about others, unless it helps you do something useful. Just do what needs to be done. He didn't say, do it perfectly. He didn't say, do it with joy. He said, do what needs to be done. I used to think discipline meant going big. Pushing harder. Doing more. But now, I know, discipline is in the everyday decision to show up, even when you don't want to. Like writing a single page in your journal. Like choosing water over wine. Like making that one phone call you've been avoiding. Some days, I only do the bare minimum. And you know what? That's okay. Because showing up isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. The Stoics weren't superhuman. They had pain, doubts, off days. But they showed up anyway because their virtue mattered more than their mood. When I was younger, I chased fireworks. Now, in my 40s, I've come to appreciate the quiet glow of a candle burning steadily, day after day. That's what showing up looks like. You don't need to run the marathon. You just need to lace up your shoes. You don't need to fix everything today. You just need to face it. There's a kind of peace in this rhythm. No drama. No pressure. Just presence. And little by little, day by day, you build a life that holds itself together. Not because every moment was perfect, but because you were present through all of it. So if today feels hard, don't run. Don't hide. Just show up. Take one step. Even a slow one. Even a tired one. Because every time you show up, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. And over time, those votes add up. They become a life of strength, of grace, of quiet power. Now that you've begun showing up, you're ready for the next lesson. One that most people avoid but the Stoics embraced: voluntary hardship. Because sometimes, to grow stronger, we must choose discomfort before life forces it upon us. Practice voluntary hardship. I used to do everything I could to avoid discomfort. I liked my coffee just right. I turned up the heat at the first sign of cold. I avoided hard conversations. And when life got tough, I distracted myself: TV, snacks, noise, anything to escape. But over time, I realized something strange: the more I avoided discomfort, the weaker I felt. Not in body, but in spirit. Then one day, I came across a line from Marcus Aurelius: you must build up your life action by action, and be content if each achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this. And I started wondering, what if I stopped running from discomfort? What if I chose it on purpose? So I began with something small. I skipped breakfast once a week. Walked in the cold without a jacket. Turned off my phone for a full day. Nothing dramatic. Just little acts of discomfort, chosen voluntarily. And you know what happened? I didn't get weaker. I got stronger. Not louder. Just steadier. The Stoics believed that voluntary hardship was like training for the soul. You practice pain so when life brings real pain, you're ready. You step into discomfort so when suffering visits, you're not shocked by it. It doesn't break you, because you've met it before. I think about this often now. We live in a world built for convenience. Everything is one tap away. Instant delivery. Instant entertainment. But real growth? It's not instant. It's uncomfortable. It's slow. It's often lonely. That's why practicing hardship matters. It reminds you that you don't need everything to go your way. You don't need comfort to be calm. You don't need perfect conditions to keep showing up. And perhaps more importantly, voluntary discomfort helps you appreciate what you already have. Go a day without hot water, and suddenly, a warm shower feels like a gift. Go a day without speaking, and your next conversation feels sacred. Gratitude grows when you stop taking ease for granted. So I keep doing it. Tiny, quiet acts of chosen hardship. Not to suffer, but to sharpen, to strengthen, to remind myself that I am not fragile. And neither are you. You have more strength than you know. But strength doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in choice. The choice to step into the cold, into the silence, into the unknown. And when you do, you carry that strength into everything else. So today, ask yourself, where can I practice discomfort on purpose? And when life throws real adversity your way, you'll already be standing. Not because it's easy, but because you trained for it. And now that you've trained your body and mind through hardship, You're ready to learn one of the most liberating Stoic truths of all, the dichotomy of control, knowing what's yours to change, and what's not. The dichotomy of control. There was a time I used to carry the whole world on my shoulders. Every bad headline made my chest tighten. Every careless word from someone lingered in my mind for days. I'd try to control everything, people's opinions, outcomes, even the weather. And the more I tried, the more exhausted I became. It felt like I was swimming upstream, against a river I couldn't stop. Then I found a line in Epictetus's teaching, echoed by Marcus Aurelius: some things are up to us, and some are not. That's it. One simple idea. But it changed everything for me. Because for the first time, I saw the difference between what I could control, and what I never could. I could control my thoughts, my choices, my attitude. But I could not control how others treated me. I could not control the economy. I could not control growing older, or what tomorrow might bring. So I started practicing what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. Each time I felt stress, I asked myself, is this within my control? If yes, I took action. If no, I took a breath, and let it go. Sounds simple, right? But it's not easy. Letting go isn't weakness. It's wisdom. It takes strength to admit, this is not mine to fix. I remember a time when someone I loved deeply made a choice that hurt both of us. I replayed it in my head over and over. Wondered what I could have done differently. But no matter how hard I thought, nothing changed. That's when I remembered, you have power over your mind, not external events. So I shifted. I stopped trying to rewrite the past. And I started focusing on who I wanted to be in the present. I chose to respond with patience. To speak with kindness. To forgive, not because they deserved it but because I did. You see, when you focus on what's within your control, you stop reacting, and you start choosing. You take back your peace. You reclaim your time. And slowly, you become unshakable. Life will always throw things at you: illness, rejection, uncertainty. But none of these can touch the part of you that's yours alone, your reason, your virtue, your will. That's what the Stoics knew. That's what I'm still learning day by day. So if something's weighing on you right now, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine to carry? And if it is, carry it with courage. If it's not, release it with grace. Because self-discipline isn't just about doing more. Sometimes, it's about letting go. Now that you've learned what's in your power, you're ready to hear something that may sting a little. But it's one of the most empowering truths Stoicism offers: never play the victim. Because once you stop seeing yourself as powerless, you begin to see just how powerful you really are. Never play the victim. There was a season in my life when I felt like the world was against me. Nothing seemed to go right. People let me down. Doors closed. Opportunities passed me by. And I found myself thinking thoughts like, why does this always happen to me? Why can't I catch a break? It was subtle. But looking back, I had started to see myself as a victim. And honestly, it felt comforting. When you blame the world, you don't have to change. When you point the finger, you don't have to grow. You just sit in the pain, waiting for someone to fix it for you. But no one came. And deep down, I knew I couldn't live like that anymore. Then I read a passage in Meditations where Marcus Aurelius wrote, choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed and you haven't been. At first, I didn't understand it. But slowly, it made sense. It wasn't about denying pain. It was about refusing to let that pain define me. You see, life will hurt you. People will say the wrong things. You will be misunderstood. But the Stoics believed, suffering is not in the event itself, it's in how we interpret it. That truth hit hard. Because suddenly, I had to admit. I wasn't powerless. I was choosing my response, even when I didn't realize it. So I started asking myself new questions. What can I learn from this? How can I grow through this? What would the stronger version of me do right now? And everything changed. No, my life didn't magically improve. But I got stronger. More honest. More grounded. I stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. I stopped replaying the past like a broken tape. And I started reclaiming my story. Because here's the truth no one tells you, you can't control what happens. But you always control what happens next. Victimhood is a cage. Responsibility is the key. And Stoicism hands it to you every single day. So if you've been hurt, acknowledge it. Feel it. But don't live there. Don't let one chapter become your whole book. Don't let one person's cruelty become your identity. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. And when you stop playing the victim, you start playing the hero of your own life. Now that you've taken back your power, you're ready to practice something even more difficult, delaying gratification. Because once you stop blaming others, you can finally begin building the future you've always wanted brick by quiet brick. Practice delayed gratification. When I was younger, I wanted everything now. The promotion, the praise, the results, the peace. I thought, if I don't get it soon, maybe it's not meant for me. But life doesn't work that way. At least, not life that's worth living. The Stoics understood this long before psychology gave it a name. Delayed gratification, the ability to wait, to hold back, to choose long-term meaning over short-term pleasure. Marcus Aurelius never wrote about chasing excitement. He wrote about endurance, discipline, waiting with purpose. He believed that if you give in to every impulse, you lose control not just of your actions, but of your freedom. A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions, he wrote. And I believe that's true. The first time I really practiced delayed gratification wasn't some heroic moment. It was me, sitting in my car, staring at a fast food drive-thru. I had a long day. I was tired. And I really wanted something greasy and comforting. But then I asked myself, what do I want more? This 5-minute fix? Or the energy and clarity I've been building slowly? And for once, I drove away. It sounds silly. But that small moment felt like a victory. Because that night, I proved to myself, I'm not a slave to my cravings. You see, every time you say no to what's easy, you're saying yes to something greater. When you save money instead of spending it, you say yes to peace of mind. When you stay quiet in an argument, you say yes to wisdom over pride. When you go to bed early, write that page, skip that drink, you say yes to becoming the person you respect. That's what Stoicism is really about. Not denying pleasure, but choosing it wisely. And the more you delay gratification, the more powerful you feel inside. Because now, you're in charge. Not your habits. Not your impulses. You. So here's something I do now. Each morning, I choose one thing to delay. Something small. Could be checking my phone. Could be reaching for a second cup of coffee. Could be venting when I'm frustrated. And in that pause, I grow stronger. Because discipline isn't loud. It's quiet. It's in the space between wanting and waiting. So ask yourself today, what can I say no to now, so I can say yes to something better later? And remember, each no is not a punishment. It's a powerful choice. One that your future self will look back on, and quietly say, thank you. Now that you've learned how to resist the noise within, it's time to face a deeper challenge, the noise outside. Because no matter how grounded you are, there will always be voices trying to pull you off course. That's why the next lesson is so important. Ignore the naysayers. Ignore the naysayers. When I first started making changes in my life, I thought people would cheer me on. Eat healthier. Wake up earlier. Cut back on distractions. Focus on purpose. But to my surprise, not everyone liked it. Some rolled their eyes. Some laughed behind my back. Others said things like, "You're taking life too seriously." Or, "Come on, just relax a little." At first, it bothered me. I doubted myself. I questioned, am I doing too much? Am I trying too hard? But then I remembered something Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them." And I realized, it wasn't their voice that was the problem. It was mine listening. You see, the path of growth is quiet. The path of self-discipline is lonely. And people fear what they don't understand. When you begin to rise, it can make others uncomfortable, not because you're better than them, but because you're doing what they're afraid to do. So they project. They mock. They doubt. But here's the truth, you don't need their permission. Your life, your choices, your growth, none of it is up for public vote. You are not here to please the crowd. You are here to live by your principles. To walk your path, even if no one walks beside you. It took me years to learn that. And even now, I have to remind myself. Because the critics will always be there. On social media. In your family. In your head. But the Stoics taught us to return to reason. To evaluate the source. To ask, does this opinion come from wisdom, or from fear? And if it's fear, if it's noise, if it pulls you away from your purpose, let it go. Not in anger. Not in defiance. Just silence. That silence is strength. That silence is self-possession. And once you stop chasing validation, you find something better: clarity. You stop trying to prove, and start simply becoming. So here's what I tell myself now, whenever the doubters appear: I am not here to be understood. I am here to live with virtue. Let your actions speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your calm speak louder than their noise. And if you stay the course long enough, some of those naysayers will come back, not to mock you, but to ask how you did it. But by then, you'll be too focused to notice. Now that you've learned to protect your energy from outside noise, it's time to direct that energy inward towards something powerful, emulating the wise. Because the best way to grow is to walk in the footsteps of those who've already climbed. Find wise people to emulate. When I was younger, I thought I had to figure everything out on my own. I wore my independence like a badge of honor. I don't need anyone's help, I used to say. I'll find my own way. And I did. But the way was longer. And lonelier. And often, harder than it needed to be. It wasn't until I turned 40 that something shifted. I looked back and realized I had learned my biggest lessons not from books, but from people. From my grandfather, who never raised his voice, but led with quiet dignity. From a former boss, who treated janitors the same way he treated CEOs. From a friend who chose integrity over convenience every single time. And then I found the Stoics. Marcus Aurelius. Epictetus. Seneca. These weren't just philosophers. They were living examples of what strength, humility, and wisdom looked like. When you find someone living as you wish to live, look to them as a model. Epictetus said that. And I took it to heart. So now, instead of asking, what should I do? I ask, what would the wiser version of me do? Or better yet, what would Marcus do? What would Seneca say? This shift changed everything. Because when you emulate the wise, you shorten the distance between where you are, and who you want to become. But here's the thing, it's not about copying people. It's about studying their character. Watching how they move through difficulty. How they stay calm under pressure. how they treat others when no one is watching. And you don't need perfect role models. You just need honest ones. The truth is, everyone is modeling something. Some model anger. Some model fear. Some model strength. The question is, who are you watching? And more importantly, who is watching you? Because whether we know it or not, someone's always learning from us too. When I started choosing better role models, I didn't just grow. I started becoming someone worth emulating. That's the Stoic way. We don't just absorb wisdom, we pass it on, through action, through presence, through example. So look around. Find someone wiser, someone calmer, someone grounded. And don't be afraid to follow their lead. Because when we walk in the footsteps of the wise, we leave a clearer path for those who come after us. And once you've found your guides, once you've started walking the right path, there's one more practice that will keep you steady, reflecting at the end of each day. Because the wise don't just live well. They look back and ask, did I live today the way I said I would? Honestly review your day. Every night before I go to bed, I sit with the light dimmed, the noise turned off, and I ask myself a simple question: did I live today the way I meant to? Not. Was I productive? Not. Did I win? But honestly, was I the man I said I wanted to be? There was a time I avoided this question. Because I didn't like the answers. I'd scroll through my phone until I fell asleep, distracted, disconnected, detached from the day I just lived. But then I read what Marcus Aurelius did every night. How he wrote to himself quietly, without judgment, reflecting not to punish, but to improve. That's what Stoicism is about. Not perfection, but progress through awareness. So now, I do what he did. I sit with myself, not as a critic, but as a friend. A guide. A student of my own behavior. And I ask, where did I act with patience? Where did I lose control? Did I speak with honesty? Did I choose what was right, or what was easy? Some nights, I feel proud. Other nights, I feel disappointed. But no matter the answer, I remind myself, this is how growth begins. Because if we don't reflect, we repeat. And if we lie to ourselves, we stay lost. The Stoics knew that the greatest accountability doesn't come from rules, it comes from inner dialogue. It comes from standing in front of your own conscience, with nothing to hide, and nothing to prove. Just the honest truth. And I've learned something beautiful: even small corrections done daily change the direction of your life. A kind word instead of a harsh one. A pause instead of a reaction. A step back instead of a step over the line. It all adds up. And so, each night, I close my eyes with clarity. Not because I was perfect, but because I paid attention. Because I know that tomorrow, I get to try again. Not starting from zero but from a wiser place. So tonight, I invite you to do the same. Don't just crash into sleep. Take 5 quiet minutes. Ask yourself, did I live today with intention? Did I act according to my values? And whatever the answer, use it not to shame yourself but to sharpen your path. That's how self-discipline becomes a way of life. Not a battle, but a habit. Not a burden, but a compass. And when you do this every night, you'll begin to notice something powerful. You're not just going through the days anymore. You're growing through them. Self-discipline isn't about punishing yourself. It's about becoming someone you can rely on, someone your future self will thank you for. Marcus Aurelius never claimed to be perfect. But he strived daily. Quietly. Stoically. If these 10 principles resonated with you, don't just nod and move on. Pick one. Practice it today. Because transformation isn't a moment, it's a direction. Speech balloon. Comment below, which principle hit you the hardest? Bell subscribe if you want more Stoic wisdom to guide your days. Folded hands, your support keeps this journey alive. Still struggling with motivation? Watch why Marcus Aurelius said, "Stop waiting for tomorrow.